That seeks to unite the finance and business community in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals was launched in Sandton here in Johannesburg. Finance and Business 2030 is a partnership between One Young World, chartered accountants worldwide, as well as the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. And it will see finance professionals from various sectors come together to develop a plan of action on how to best achieve the development goals by 2030. And joining us now from our Cape Town studios is Kate Robertson, who is the co-founder of One Young World. Kate, good to speak to you again. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good to see you, Zakina. Thank you for having me. Yes, good to be here.
So, Kate, let's start here. Tell us more about this Finance and Business 2030 and exactly what brought about this idea.
Chartered accountants worldwide have worked with One Young World for 5 years now, sending delegates from their chapters all over the world every single year to the One Young World Global Summit. And they, as we, have felt that it's a good time to expand this work and bring more and more young leaders into this group of leadership, which represents every country in the world. But also with the Sustainable Development Goals having been listed now for 5 years and having 10 years of that program to run, it's clear to chartered accountants everywhere, as well as to us at One Young World, that it's the financial industry and the industries that surround it, the big consultancies, the big legal firms, who could actually be changing the speed at which we're addressing the Sustainable Development Goals and are an essential part of that. And chartered accountants, as we at One Young World, have seen that if we leave the Sustainable Development Goals to the NGO sector or the civil society, as you would say, it can't get done at the speed it could get done if the finance industry came into the fold. So this is an effort to accelerate that, started in the UK by Chartered Accountants England and Wales, and now is spreading around the world. This is the second meeting we had yesterday, and then we move on to New York and then on to Dublin.
Now, Kate, how will this work differently to existing efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals?
Our frustration at One Young World is with leaders who say, oh, the young people must deliver the goals, because you've just got to ask yourself, what? Young leaders around the world only lack for one thing, in our experience. They don't have easy access to capital. Where are you going to find access to capital? It's going to be in the financial sector. The other barrier to the goals for young people as well as for the rest of us, the other barrier, we know this all over the world, is in corruption. And my concern with these brilliant South African leaders that we have, who really are brilliant, is that they're anxious and down about current situations, but is for everybody to understand that corruption stalks the halls of power in every single country in the world. And the people who audit and account for all of that are in the financial services industry, in the financial professions. So the guardians of our money are the guardians who can make all of this stuff happen. And it's so, you do get encouraged when you're working with young leaders, because young leaders get that, they understand that.
Indeed. And so for South Africa, we can relate to so much of what you've just said there. What sort of role is our country going to play in all of this?
Well, as you can hear, I myself am actually from South Africa, not living here now, but a passionate patriot, and firmly believing that if South Africa doesn't make the rapid progress that's required, the continent won't. In sub-Saharan Africa, the reality is South Africa leads. South Africa's the big one. South Africa's the one that counts. And I haven't changed my view in the last 10 years. The young leaders that we are working with at One Young World, the South African young leaders, are some of the highest caliber leadership in the world. So when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, you know, in a way, the continent of Africa and India, but the continent of Africa is ground zero. This is where most arable land in the world is in the continent of Africa. We all know, South Africans, the mineral wealth of Africa is almost untapped at this stage. It's not an accident that China has interests in every country in Africa. And everyone looks to Africa to go, Africa can be part of the story or exploited. But that future actually is in African hands. It's not in anyone else's hands. So the role that South Africa is going to play for the world and for Africa, the time is now. And I still believe South Africans can do it.
So just a final question, Kate. What is the participation criteria in this initiative?
So for FinBiz 2030, what Chartered Accountants Worldwide have done is they've reached out to their community, which is just under 2 million chartered accountants all over the world. SAICA itself, the South African chapter, has 44,000 members. So what they have done is they have invited retail banks, investment banks, the big consultancies, anybody in the financial services industry to come together with some of the brilliant civil society representatives that you have here. So yesterday they had Yes for Jobs, which is a stunning initiative. They had Just Share, which is working on climate change. They had several NGOs there. So it's bringing together every single sector with no discrimination between sectors, and also opening up to business to say business can achieve this stuff, rather than going, oh no, you know, big business, bad business, not going to talk to them. It's getting everybody together. And that's what happened yesterday in Johannesburg. And as I say, brilliant young leaders there, including Mbali Ntuli, who is running for the DA, brilliant young politician who won one of our Young Politician of the Year awards last year. And it's a question of bringing everybody together under FinBiz 2030 and looking for speed and scale.
Well, Kate, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for speaking to us this morning. Kate Robertson, a One Young World co-founder, talking to us about the launch in South Africa of the Finance and Business 2030 initiative.